there, but that's all right. Thanks for coming on, bro. I have hit record, assuming you can hear me and
We're good.
everything is all good on your end. And my lovely daughter Kendra wanted to sit on the podcast again. You say hi to Stu? Yeah. Hi,
Hello.
Stu. Hi, Stu. She was very excited for podcast. Very curious about what Daddy was doing when she little one. And now we're at it. Now we're getting some dollars. So she's going to sit down for some snacks with us too, brother. But mate, first off, Mr. Stu, how are you, sir?
Living the dream, brother. Living the dream. No
Yeah,
complaints.
literally, mate. Mate, I said something the other day to someone. Someone said living the dream. I said, nah, bro, this is just real.
Yeah, this is life.
Yeah, literally. Like, I think I don't know about you, but sometimes I pinch myself with what's happening.
Oh yeah, dude, it's nuts. It's nuts. It's the best though.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. And that's what I look forward to talking to you about because I've known you for a little while now, and I think I've seen the rise. I mean, you're already risen, but the next version of rising Stu and everything that's going on in your world, bro.
Hopefully.
Strong as hell. Had some speed bumps. Incredible client base. And for me personally, and the algorithm knows it, one of my favorite people that Instagram gives me to watch
Well, I
on the
appreciate
internet
it,
as
dude.
well.
I appreciate
Yeah. And the algorithm knows it too. You get thrown at me all the time.
it. Yes,
So I don't know if that's you just on there all the time, mate, or the internet just knows that people need to hear what you say.
dude, it's both. I spend
Yep.
too much time on the screen, and then also people need to listen.
Yeah, because for those that don't know, would you say online coach would be your main
Yeah,
main
100%.
source like in what we do, yeah, and who you are?
Yeah, I own Kodiak Barbell. We have
Yep.
coaches that work with us. My wife and I own it.
Yep.
Been doing it full time since 2020 online, so 4 years
Yep.
now.
Yep. 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 How do you find that? Because like for me, I sort of coined a phase because you've had four walls of fitness before.
Yeah, 100.
You you've had the gym and I've seen some people move into this space where they've had the four walls and they've gone beyond and been whether it's nomadic. There's a few people I follow that are traveling, being online coaches or like yourself, and just set up in a new city as well.
Mhm.
How do you find that transition?
Dude, it is. I mean, Johnny, how long have you been coaching people in person? How many years?
I think, and I lose count, 15, 16,
Okay,
thereabouts.
so here's the thing. If you have 16 years of experience coaching people in person, the
Mm,
things that you can pick up on within 5 seconds of watching someone move,
yep.
everything is easier online because
Mm,
your client base is the entire world, right? And so your ability to pick up on things and help people and improve is
mm,
like, I always tell people, like, if you're not great as an online coach, it's probably because you haven't worked with people in person. And the best online coaches
mm,
are the ones who worked with people in person for the longest. Like Trevor Jaffe, I'm pretty
yep.
sure last year was the first year that he didn't have in-person clients, and he'd done in-person clients for like 20 years.
Yep. Yep. So it's
So
almost
it's
like it's your apprenticeship to online coaching,
well, it's
so to speak.
you know what it is? It's not an apprenticeship. It's the
Yep.
reward that you get for putting in the hard, difficult work in person. Because in person is infinitely more difficult because there's 5
Yep.
a.m. clients, and there's 8 p.m. clients, and there's working on
Yeah.
Saturdays. And then
Yep.
you go online and
Yep.
you're like, oh, this is easy mode.
Yep. Yeah. 100%. I know, like, for me personally, like, because I would say I got a portion of online clients, and it sort of riz out of necessity for myself. Like, I sort of
Mhm.
fought the system. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. You can't affect change through the internet. That's fucking silly. And then one by one, a client leaves because they just moved, right? And
Yeah.
next thing they're living in another city, and they're like, "Well, can you help me still?" And it's like, "Well, I guess we could do that." And then, yeah, it turns out it works, right? Because you can affect change. Because I know for me personally, the question for people who don't know much about how it works, they always ask, they're like, "Can you really help someone via the internet? Like, can you? You're not spotting them."
Yeah.
Um, but for the layman, what do you think? Like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, how much effective change can you do as an online
I think it
coach?
I think the transition from having a client in person to then having a client online is pretty simple, but to
Yep.
take, let's say, an absolute beginner or someone who's
Yep.
really, really new and fresh to the gym, I think
Yep.
that's a very, very difficult enterprise. And
Yep.
right? Like, how many clients have you had come in and it's like, you're like, hey, do you know what a squat is? And they're like, I've never heard that word. Um, and so, like if you have, a year and a half, 2 years of in person with somebody, and then they transition online, that's a very, very easy experience for them
Yep.
because they already
Yep.
have all
Yep.
these foundational patterns. They already know how to move, and
Yep.
it's quite simple. But I really always tell people, like, I've had people come to me, and they've been like, oh, can you help me out? And I was like, well, what's your experience? And they're like, oh, well, I've been training for 3 months. I was like, training like powerlifting for 3 months? They're like, no, I've been exercising in a gym for 3 months. I was like, have you done it prior to this 3 months? They're like, no, never. I was like, I legitimately can't help you. I think you need to see somebody in person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's almost like they have to graduate to the online. And then
Yep.
once they have all that stuff sorted out, it's very simple.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, 100%. It can be. I know it's a frustrate, and you'd get it too. Like you get that client, and you're like, all right, we're gonna do squats today. And they're like, okay, yep. And then and they're like they're nodding, they're in, they're following what you're saying, right? And then you go, so I'm just gonna move my hips. We're gonna go down. I've given you a little milk crate to sit on, just so you know where to go. And then you come back up, and like you just sit. I don't give a shit how you get there. Just sit on the thing, and then they jam their knees forward, their heels come off the ground, they're on their tippy toes, and they get about this far away from it, and they look at you like, yeah, I got this. And you're like, oh, did you watch what I showed you?
Oh, dude. I had an in-person client, and he was actually Australian,
Yeah,
and really, really nice guy, and he was a diplomat. And
yep,
I remember I was like, okay, we're gonna squat today. He's like, okay. And I'm like, this is what we're gonna do. And then I explain everything, I show him, and then he's doing a goblet squat to a box, and I hand him the dumbbell, and he looks
yeah.
at me, and he's like, what do I do? And I was like, what the fuck do you mean, what do you do? I just showed you. And he's like, I wasn't paying attention. And I was like, what the fuck were you doing looking at me?
Yeah. Just staring at the words.
Yeah.
Just literally hearing the sounds, and that was about it, or seeing them. I think
Yeah.
I always tell a story. I got a favorite one, and it's a lovely lady called Hazel, and we spent 5 weeks trying to get her to squat. She just couldn't do it, and then by the end of it, I spent 3 weeks grabbing her hips and physically shoving them where I wanted them to go. But I think that's where you make a really good point, and I have heard another really good online coach say similar stuff to you, like the gap. If you haven't done that touchy feely, lack of a better word, in person and knowing how to get someone to move correctly, I can only imagine online space would be tricky. Like if you can't articulate it in person, how the fuck do you type it out in a way that someone can read it?
Well, it's also like it's in it, and you see this oftentimes a lot more on the drug tested side of powerlifting than the untested
Yep,
side, because
yep,
you have
yep,
these kids who are, their first exposure to lifting weights was through powerlifting, and they do it for
yep,
2 years, and
yep,
they don't know how to do a Bulgarian, they don't know how to do a
yep,
split squat, they don't know how to do
yep,
walking lunges, they don't know how to do dumbbell press,
yep.
and
They
then
don't
they're
know what it's
stronger
called.
than their friends, so
Yep.
then they're all of their friends' coach,
Oh god.
and it's just junk. It's just all
Yep.
the way junk, like terrible.
Yep. Oh God. Yeah, I think I've noted and seen a lot of that. I think lately, because I think maybe I'll be right to say online coaching, particularly here in Australia, is like kind of booming. It's quite success. You see a lot of people doing it, and I think you see a lot of people very busy that maybe haven't done the work or really know what they're doing yet. They're
Yes.
just leaning on the fact that yeah, they can squat something fucking pretty solid, or they look great in the mirror or whatever. But these guys are teaching people what to do, which is
Yeah.
I think that's a scary time for me anyway, I think, because they're the ones building our reputation.
Yes.
Like for the general population, right? They're the ones, teaching everyone what an online coach is. And like that makes me nervous about the space. I think, we
Well,
need
I I was initially of a very similar mind to you, and as
mm,
I've gotten older, like there was something that I kind of realized, which is that, like, and this, just like, how many personal trainers did you start personal training with 15 years ago? How many of them are still
oh
personal?
yeah. Yeah. I hear you on that.
They all fucking quit because the reality of the
Mm,
situation is the best people are always going to stay. They're always going to have clients. They're always going to be successful.
mm,
The you know, you see these people, they're successful, but they're a flash in the pan. They're out of the industry or in 2 or 3 years, and they move on to something else.
mm.
And I used to like, it would bother me that these people had clients, and then I realized, I was like, in 2 years they're not going to have any of those clients because this isn't going to be their fucking job. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. They're going to be what I call the broken PT, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one you meet at the dinner table with the friend and the obscure one. Oh, I used to do that. That job sucks. Yeah, that job's shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was
You
it
suck.
shit or were you shit? Or were you shit? Who was
Yeah.
shit? Which
Yes.
person here? You're
Yeah.
just like, oh man, imagine the product they're having. And that's what I think is cool. We need more people like yourself on the internet being vocal, and talking about the great things that they do. So when people are out there making their choices, they can see what a good online coach or coach does,
That's
so
the
to
hope.
speak. Yeah. And for you, like coaching people, are you predominantly powerlifting space these days? Are you happy to take on just people that enjoy being strong? Like who's your favorite? What are you looking for?
I have probably, I mean, probably 90% of my clients are competitive powerlifters.
Yep. Yep.
Um, I have probably 10% of my roster, so probably 5 people, um, who are like just kind of general fitness, and they're like, hey, you know, they're either a friend or they're like, hey, I just want to like
Yep.
do powerlifting style movements. I don't really have any interest in competing, but I just want to work with you. Um,
Yep.
and that's actually been, I think I have more fun with that because I think
Yep.
oftentimes like it gets kind of boring to coach squat, bench press, and deadlift, and I wake up to 45 videos of people squatting, bench pressing, and deadlifting, and I'm like, it's the same things, right? It's like, you know, pull your chin back into the bar, sit your butt to your heels, you know what I mean? Like, and it's just the
Yep.
same feedback all the time is a little boring. So
Yep.
when I get people who do different stuff, right, where they'll do
Mm.
more typically bodybuilding stuff, where I'm managing their diet and things like that.
Yep.
It's just a nice breakup of the monotony.
Yep.
But yeah, so I'd say probably 90% of my roster is just strictly powerlifting, and then the other
Yep.
10% is people who just want
Yep.
to get in better shape and look good.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I mean, I got a unique client comes to mind. A guy he lives on the other side of the country, and he's just come to strength to powerlifting because his friends does it, but he realizes he's getting a little older, and that barbells are fucking really cool for that,
Yeah.
because big muscles and big bones are handy as you get really old. And he's ripped into it and had a great time, but you do get that fun, unique challenge because he's not too fussed on whether he hits PBs or not. He just wants to move bars, but then he travels heaps, so then the flexibility you got to put into a program when someone's overseas and all they got to take is a band in their suitcase. That part really gets you thinking, I think, as well. Do you find when you're thinking out of the box that carries over into your powerlifting stuff as well? Like the stuff starts thinking, gets you thinking for that, and you're like,
Yeah,
fuck, maybe I could play with that.
yeah. The thing that I've been really grateful for is that I worked with a very very talented coach for a very long time, for like 5.5 years. His name was Paul
Mhm.
Anid,
Yep.
and you know, I took time off of powerlifting when he was coaching me, and I did bodybuilding, and I came back to powerlifting, and so I had been exposed to, you know, in the 5 or 5.5 years we were together, I had been exposed to like pretty much every kind of powerlifting program that exists. And I've been exposed to a bunch of different types of bodybuilding stuff, and I've been exposed to like more athletic, CrossFit type stuff.
Yep.
Um, and then that in combination with my own training experience, I have like a pretty broad base. Um,
Yeah.
and I think something that I'm very grateful for is I had that experience because now I can help people in a lot more ways than I would have had I just
Mm.
done powerlifting.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And that's where I think the exciting bit, like you said, not the flash in the pan guys that have been around for a year or two, like your knowledge base is just so broad. And the thing that I love about you, man, you're so open to learn stuff too. Has it always been like that for you? A big sponge, so to speak?
Yeah, and I try to be because I'm always obsessed with this like idea of efficiency, right? Which is like
Yep.
if there's a more effective way of doing something, I kind of need to know what that is, and it like I'm always thinking about like maximizing efficiency and maximizing
Mm.
economy with the client because I'm like, okay, if there's a better exercise that I can use, then I want to be able to replace it, right? If I can get two things done with one exercise, then that's going to be more effective.
Yep.
Um, and it's just that's been in every aspect of my life, like that's how my brain works.
Yep.
And honestly, I think that's just like a little bit of like I don't know. That's just how my brain works, and
Mm.
I'm just grateful for it.
Yep.
But I think that's been the thing that has driven that kind of sponge mentality is like, there's got to
Yep.
be a better way. There's got to be a better way. There's got to be better. And sometimes there isn't, right? Sometimes
Yep.
it's just, it is what it is and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But a lot of the times there is a better way, and it's the
Yep.
people who ask that question that get the answer.
Yep. Yeah. 100%. Do you ever look back on previous Stu programs from like 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago and go, "Oh God, what was
So,
that?"
you know what's funny is I oftentimes like will go back and look at a program because I have programs from online clients all the way back to 2017.
Nice.
So I have
Yep.
like in a Google Drive. So I have 7 years of
Wow.
programs,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and a lot of the stuff has changed, but a
Yep.
lot of things have also stayed the same. And it's funny too
Yep.
because I'll go back and I'll look at, let's say I'm struggling with a client whose bench just isn't progressing.
Mm.
And I'll be like, okay, well, like, let me go back and look at old client programs where I know I added, 15, 20, 25 kilos to their bench. Like, what
Mm.
did I do?
Yep. Yep.
And then I'll be like, oh, well, I did way more fucking back and I did way more arms, right? And it's like,
Yep.
instead of doing like 3 sets of back in a session, I do 10 sets of back in a session. Instead of doing 4 sets of arms in a session, I do 8 sets or 10 sets of arms in a session. I was like, okay, maybe that's the difference maker. And
Mm.
sometimes it isn't, but a lot of times
Yep.
it is.
Yep.
And oftentimes, like, I've done enough things with enough people because, like, I've probably worked with, I mean, in 7 years, probably 700 or 800 people, right?
Mm.
Just like, when I was working in person, right? Like, all of my in-person clients had a program,
Mm.
and then I worked with the people online that I worked with, and then I worked with people regionally. But there's so much information. There's so many different people that I've worked with over the years that I'm like, there's got to be an answer in here somewhere, right? I'm just like
Yep.
leafing through these programs trying to find an answer.
Yep. 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 Yeah, that's man, that's the fun bit. And who out there, who do you like to follow? Like, what other coaches and sort of stuff do you like to see what other people are doing, and always be looking and left and right to see what else is doing to check
So I
yourself.
really like, I follow a lot of high level, like drug tested powerlifting coaches.
Yep.
So Steve Denovi, Sean Noriega, uh, Marcellus, Matt Cronin, all those guys, the Powerlifting Now guys,
Mm.
because I think it's very easy for us on the untested side to be like, oh, they're fucking pussies, like da da da, like they have to wear their shirt when they fucking deadlifts,
Mm.
and but the thing
But
is
they're
that
really strong.
they're really strong, and there's a lot of very small people with 225 kilo bench presses. So I'm like, okay, it can't be like there's something here.
Mm.
Um, so those are the guys that I principally follow because for
Mm.
me, there has to be things that they're doing in training that we're not doing on the untested side that we can learn from
Yep.
them and make it more effective on the
Mm.
untested side. And also just generally speaking, right? Like,
Yep.
of the 50 or so clients that I have, probably a little over half of them are still drug tested. So I still
Yeah.
need to know how to do that properly.
Yeah.
Um,
100%.
and I've worked with, and, I'm grateful to have become friends with a lot of the really, really great coaches in untested
Mm.
powerlifting.
Yep.
I've either coached them or I've been friends with them or been coached by them. So I kind of have learned most of the stuff there is to learn, I believe, on the untested side.
Yep.
And now for me, it's just like refining that skill set and refining that knowledge on the tested side so that I can kind of help
Mm.
everyone.
Yeah, 100%. That's a really good way to think about it. I mean, because the tested guys can't lean on drug use, essentially PEDs,
Yeah.
to give themselves that kick. Like everything in the training room and outside of that is all the tools they've got, and they've
Yeah.
just got to get it
Yeah.
right. They can't be like, oh, I'm a bit short this training run. We'll just throw a little bit more in, and that'll get us the kick we need.
Yeah. It's like, oh, my squat's not peaking well. I'm going to take more Anadrol. It's like, you can't do that.
Yeah. Can't do that. And that, I mean, I'm looking forward to I get a young girl I coach. She's at Malta at the moment for Junior Burger Junior Worlds. So she's lifting in the 84 ladies. So I'm super jazzed to watch that. And just seeing what the girls can. She's only young. She's 18, and the age class is to 24. So this is just her first crack. But the girls in her age group, the top, I think, mid 550 totals, thereabouts. And these are girls.
What?
Like the women, I get it, but they're 84 and they're sub 24 years of age. Like, that's just crazy.
Well, I mean, there's drug tested women now
Yep.
nearing a 300 kilo squat in sleeves, and
Yeah.
150, 160, 170 kilo benches,
Yep.
like, and it's just it just gets more and more and more ridiculous. And even on the tested side,
Yep.
right? Like,
Yep.
there's a junior 82.5 here in the United States, and I'm pretty sure he just totaled like 860 or 875. And he had like a 600 dots. I was like, and he's 21.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh
And I'm
God.
like, and the thing too is like, I think the crazy thing that tested powerlifting has done is it because it's so accessible to everyone, because it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
belt and knee sleeves is all you need.
Yep. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
you just have these freaks coming out of the woodwork, right? It's like,
Mm.
uh, Jesus totaled what, 25, 43 in sleeves, and he's 26. He's 26 years
That's
old.
yeah. He's just warming up, right? See,
Dude.
that's wild.
And it's just, I think we're right on the cusp and right on the edge of, I think, like a golden age in powerlifting. And I think
Yeah.
it it is starting to make less and less sense, and it's starting to be
Yep.
less and less of an argument to like
Yep.
take PEDs to get stronger. Like, I look at it,
Oh
I'm
yeah.
like, I feel kind of fucking stupid.
Oh dear. I mean, the thing I'm excited about is like, because I've been in powerlifting as long as I've been coaching. So if we said 15 years, like my mark of popularity for anything is when you have dinner with strangers, right? So I know when I had dinner with strangers 15 years ago, everyone's like, "Oh, you're a bit of a bigger guy," because back then less than 100 kilos was big, which I still find strange. 180 kilos is big.
Yeah.
They'd be like, "Oh, you go to the gym? What do you do?" I was like, "Oh, I do powerlifting." And then, the classics, ollie lifting. Do you throw it? Do you catch it? Do you do leg
Yeah.
press and all that? And like, that was the mark of, and then you just realized you'd either just agree with them or just tell them you played rugby league. And then that just made it easier. And then ask them
Yeah.
a question about themselves, because everyone loves talking about themselves, and move straight on. But nowadays the mark is like, it's everywhere. This thing is popular as hell. And like you said, we have this influx of younger people doing this sport. So, I think in the next sort of 3 to 5 years, there's lots more of these young people coming through that aren't choosing football or X other sports that they were actually really meant to barbell now. So now they're actually doing it. I think it's just going to get wilder.
Oh, it's gonna be nuts. And the reality is, right, like, there is such a high quality and high level of meats now. Like,
Mm.
one of my M1 females, um, she's a mutant. Like, she'll pull like probably 192, 195, and she competes at 67.
Wowzers.
Yeah, she's like strong. And she's going, and she's an M1, right? She's an M1
Yep.
67.5 at it, because USAPL Raw Nationals is
Yep.
going on right now.
Yep.
And like, there's M1 women with like at 67.5 with like a 460, 470 total. And I was like, well, pardon? Like, you're like in your 40s, and
Yeah,
you're
40.
not very big.
Yep. Damn.
Yeah, and Raw Nationals is like, it's insane. Like, there are so many people and so many. There's like over 1,000
Yep.
competitors.
How many days is that?
It's like, I think it's like 7 or 8 days.
Jesus. That's
It's nuts.
wild.
Like, her flight. I think her flight starts at like, I don't know, 7 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, and like the prime time sessions. Like, they had a prime time session that was going to be at like 9 p.m.
Wow.
It's like
Wow.
the meet goes all day, all day. And the worst part is it's a 2 hour weigh-in. So if you're overweight and you can beat at 9 p.m., you just don't eat all day.
Oh God. Oh, that's nasty.
It's horrendous. But what it's doing for the sport in terms of like how many people are able to say, "Hey, I went to nationals. Hey, I competed at nationals." Like, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, dude, and that's only going to see it grow, right? Like, I know I've always been a huge fan because I still, we talk about this massive growth we've got, but we're still kind of small, right? It's not
Yeah.
a massive sport just yet. We should be really finding pathways to let anyone who wants to pay to be in the event be there,
Yeah.
because that's how we make this thing that we love bigger, essentially.
Oh, and if the lower we make the barrier to entry, the more people get into it. The more people get into it, the higher the bar is set. Because now you
Yep.
have some. It's like who's that guy that competed at Pro Raw? That's just a total mutant. Vasa.
Ooh, which one? There's a few mutants there. Oh yeah, Vasa. Yeah.
It's like you get more people like that.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah, that
And
can
then
get missed because if you let more people in, yeah, a couple of them, a bunch of them, maybe not quite as strong as everybody else, but some of the four freaks are going to come because those guys come. They're going to come with them, and we're going to get more people doing this thing that we love.
yeah,
And then
I mean,
I know from a meat director perspective as well, like financially, if you have more people in your comp, like for us, how we run things, that means more money we can invest into the event itself.
yeah,
Like when we run a comp here in Brizzy, like we don't sell it out on purpose. Like we just find
yeah.
a way to fit them in. Like if I got to go till midnight, we'll go till fucking midnight. Because
Mhm.
that might mean another $1,000 to buy fucking cool lights or more t-shirts or more socks for people. Like that's
Yeah,
what you got to do. Make it more rad.
100%.
Yeah, that Bass is a beast though, eh?
Just like Kevy told me about him, and then I
Yep.
just followed him. I was like, this guy's a fucking freak of nature.
Yeah, he's a strong boy. I know here in Oz we got that big dogs coming up in November, and just
Oh,
seeing
so cool, so
the
cool.
conversation that Marcos, the meat director, is starting to throw up about it, and the kind of people that'll be lifting at that is just mind-boggling, right?
Yeah. Well, it's there's a kid that I'm friends with. He competed at this last Pro Raw too. That English kid, Mason.
Yep, yep, yep.
Yeah, so he's coming back over to do big dogs. He's looking fucking strong. He's gonna do well.
Damn. Yeah, like you go to a comp and then everyone totals over 1,000. Like that's fucking crazy.
Well, that's so Reach Rumble is this weekend. It's an ABS meet, and
Yeah, yeah,
I think it's 13 lifters. They've all totaled 9,075 or more. There's like a couple of people they added in to be like,
yep,
oh, come do this meet, so that it wasn't just like 7 people competing.
yep.
But I mean, I think all of the like top level guys have totaled over 1,000 kilos in sleeves, and it's walked out on the power bar. Dude, walked out power
Yeah.
bar on deadlifts.
Oh dear. Do you see the thing I always think about because I have been fortunate to be a part of the evolution I guess from single ply multiply into wrap lifting. I know in Australia there's a lot of to and fro between who wears sleeves and who wears wraps. I
Mhm.
follow overseas. Everyone's wearing sleeves overseas, right? Like wraps are
Yeah.
starting to fall apart, right? Do you see that being the future? Like globally, you'll see sort of wraps dissipate as well.
I think so, because especially when I go to these big meets here, when I go to the Ghost Clash, when I go to the American Pro, the
Yep.
people who compete in wraps, like generally speaking, kind of the idea is like if you compete in wraps, like if you're a high level competitor, like they'll all kind of maybe do one meet and wraps. So for instance, like Shane Haller did a meet and
Yep.
wraps, and I think that was so he could break the 140 all time world record.
Yep.
But other than that, he principally competes in sleeves.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of these high level guys, like they're just doing wraps, and it's because it's way easier. Or sorry, they're just doing sleeves, and it's because it's way easier to train. Right. All they have to do is like have someone run the monolift. They can do
Yep.
their whole training session. It's not a big deal. They don't have to get wrapped.
Yep.
For me, like my first big meet, I was like 22 years old. I think I totaled 842.5. And it was in wraps, but that whole prep was such a fucking nightmare because I had
Mm.
to like Saturday mornings, I had to get up at like 6:30 and then take the bus to this other place where my coach lived, and then he would drive us. and then he would have to
Yep.
wrap me, and it was like if he couldn't wrap me, it was this big deal, and I was like, this is so much fucking stress.
Mm.
Like this is so much additional stress. And I think
Mm.
a lot of people I think wraps are still huge in Australia.
Yeah, yeah.
I think wraps are not the flavor of the week in America. Like in
Yep.
Canada, maybe a little bit, but in America,
Yep.
wraps are really not a big thing anymore.
Yep. Yep.
Especially given that probably 65 or 70% of all competitors are competing in powerlifting America or the USAPL, and they don't have
Yep.
wraps.
Yeah, they don't have them, right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
then you
think
just see.
I think it's kind of going to be, it's kind of going to go the way of the dodo. And the thing too
Mm.
is with these new stiff sleeves, you're getting 20, 30 kilos out of them anyways. So
That's
if
enough.
I can put that on and not have to have someone wrap my knees, it's like if I get 40 kilos out of wraps or if I get 25 kilos out of these sleeves, I'd rather just do the sleeves.
Take the sleeves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I've been having this conversation a little bit this year because, always watching overseas, and then it was after chatting to Kevy, after his tour and what he was seeing overseas, and I was like, man, I didn't get the feeling when I was equip lifting that it was switching, and it just kind of happened. All of a sudden, I was wearing knee wraps and I didn't wear a suit anymore. I was like, fucking, that was a bit weird. Where's my suit? I want it back.
Yeah.
But now I feel like I'm a bit more aware about it, and I'm like, man, sleeves are what's going to happen here. And then I just see, the rise of the IPF as well, with all the big meets they're putting on, how shiny it looks on TV to watch, and the fact that, like, my test for everyone is like, if you got a normal person off the street and you said, hey, oh, that sport looks interesting, I might do it. But if you said, oh, you got to go and buy those knee wraps, they're about 3 meters long, you put them on your knee, it really fucking hurts. But you lift more weight. To them, lifting more weight doesn't mean shit yet. Like, if you just said that you get to throw some sleeves on, you get to go do the sport now, they're like, that
Yeah.
sounds fun.
Well, and I had one of my so she'll be an M1 soon. But she's squatted 230 in sleeves, and she was like, "Oh, maybe I'll do wraps." And I was like, and she squats a lot like me. I mean, like I used to, not like I squat now.
Yep.
And I was like, dude, you'd probably get 30 or 40 kilos out of wraps, and the all-time world record is like 250.
Yep.
And I was like, so you just need to learn how to use them, and you probably have
Yep.
the record.
Yeah.
And she did like 3 sessions in them. She's like, I hate this and it makes me not enjoy training. And I was like, okay, don't do it. And she's like, okay. And that was the end of the conversation. I was like, because it's just, I don't like it. It fucking bugs the shit out of me. And then also, I hate self-wrapping. And I also just don't trust most people to wrap my knees.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I'll say I still enjoyed my suit lifting, and if I had the infinite minutes, I'd probably still put an equipped suit on and do it because I like lifting more weight. And I'll wear whatever the fuck it takes to make me get more weight. I don't give a shit. But then the same with wraps as well. But like, I think what you're saying makes sense. Like, the requirement to have people around you. Like, the one thing that held me back from competing a lot this year was I could really only pick one comp. I really could only get 4 or 5 good training sessions in when I could get the same people in that gym to wrap me at the same time. And then the time of the session too, right? That's the other X factor. If you don't have infinite minutes, if you don't have 3.5 hours, like, what if you only got 1 hour now? Like, you don't really have that time for knee wraps. Like, gone those days, I think.
Yeah. You have children? Not to happen.
Yeah, bro, man. I coined a phrase because I got 2 now, which is super rad. And that for a little bit, like, I found a 15-minute window on a Monday night to get my deadlifts in leading into nationals. So for 15, maybe 20 minutes, that gave me 5 minutes to warm up, 10 minutes to hit a top single, 5 minutes to superset a back down set, and some sort of complementary exercise that looked after my sore knee. And that was fucking it. We just went plate, take a couple plates off, couple of ham curls, get out.
Yeah, I fucking love it.
Yeah, which is good. I mean, and that kind of shows what you can do when you start taking out complex stuff. I think, like knee wraps and stuff like that. There's a coach. There's a coach over here I like to follow. Do you know Patrick Morrison?
Manlet?
Yeah, Manlet.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, he was because he was studying for physio. We had him on the podcast last year, and he talked about just these 30-minute sessions he was doing because he's like in between training clients, he's doing full-time physio in his last year, and he's like, yeah, I'll just train for 30 minutes
Yeah.
and still squat over 300 and something at less than 90 kilos body weight. Walked out.
Well, it's there's this Polish guy that I coach, and he's like he's such a nail gun. You know what I mean? Like you ever coach those clients where it's like you tell them to run through a wall, and they're like, okay, how hard? Like
Yep.
there's no argument. And he was training. He was traveling for work, and he actually was able to train in another one of my clients' home gym. And it was really funny because this guy would literally, like, I could give him an SBD session and then 3 accessories, and he'd be done in an hour and 10 minutes. And then this guy would warm up for 45 minutes. And then I remember, so they trained together the first time, and the guy who took forever texted me afterwards, and he's like, dude, what the fuck is wrong with that guy? And I was like, there's nothing wrong with him. He just fucking take forever. I was like, you can do that, right? Like that is a possibility. You could push yourself that hard and get to that point. He's like, man, I'm not in that good a shape. I was like, but you could do it. Like that's the thing, right? It's like if it matters to you, you'll make time for it. And if you don't have that much time, you just make it work in less time.
Yep. Oh dear. I think. Do you find that challenge with clients, where they have this concept of how long they think it should take, and they're like, "Man, I just can't do 2 hours a day. Like, how am I going to get stronger and stuff like that?" Do you?
So the conversation 99% of the time, what happens is they'll say the workout's taking too long.
Yep.
And I always, on every exercise, there's a rest period listed.
Yep.
And so it's very easy to be like, okay, well, a set takes 40 seconds. You're resting for 60 seconds. You're doing 3 sets. Like, shouldn't take you that long. And then I'll like, they'll be like, oh, it took me 3 hours and 15 minutes to do that session. And I go through, and it's like a squat, RDL, Bulgarian, row, leg extension, leg curl. And I'm like, that is an hour and 15 minutes. Like, that is not, you're doing 60 seconds rest on your accessories. There's no reason that takes 3 hours and 15 minutes. And they're like, well, I have to load the plates. And I'm like, you don't squat 400 kilos. We're not factoring that in. You squatted 170 kilos for a set of 5. So your warm-ups were 70, 120, 150, top set of 170. I was like,
Done.
No, it's not 3 hours and 15 minutes. And then I make them, I was like, you need to bring a stopwatch and you need to time all your rest. And then they'll invariably text me back being like, oh, that session took an hour and 20 minutes. Because you're fucking around.
Yep. Too much death scrolling on the Instagrams, I think.
Put your phone on airplane mode, get it done.
Yeah. Yeah, I quite enjoy it. The stopwatch is a big fan of mine. I mean, even me personally, because I'm a victim of socializing, as well as death scrolling. And I think if anyone watching this has a takeaway from this, would be use your stopwatch on your phone and just be accountable to it, right? Like I always, it's a fitness, right? Would you call it a fitness? Like you've just got to get fit to be able to do this thing, right?
Well, and the thing what I always tell people too is like, it's gonna suck at first because you're gonna realize how fat and out of shape you are, but then it gets really easy, really fast, and then you have another 2 hours out of your day, and you're like, oh, this isn't so bad.
Wait, mate. The thing I always enjoy asking coaches who've been around a long time, experience, like where do you see the future of coaching over the next sort of 3 to 5 years, particularly with the AI world coming our way? As well.
Yeah. I think there's going to be, I think at the end of the day, like the people who are at the top are going to be mostly at the top, and there's going to be some intermingling or changing and people coming up. I don't really look, when I think about things like AI, I think you could probably, for general population fitness, you could probably get rid of some of those Gen Pop people. But I think people who like are really, really good at the end of the day, like they're always going to have clients and there's always going to be people to help. And I don't think that AI is really going to do enough that it's going to take away jobs from people who should have them, right? Because at the end of the day, it's probably going to, it's like when you go to McDonald's and you order at a kiosk now instead of at the counter.
Yep. Yeah.
The people that lost the jobs were the people that only had the skills to work at McDonald's.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like you go to a fine dining restaurant, you don't order at a kiosk. There's still a waiter there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's the same thing in fitness, right? It's like the bad people will probably not have a job, but everyone else is going to be fine. And it's just going to be about, I think the future likely looks like more integration of kind of like better coaching in terms of like program delivery, video delivery, communication. What does that look like? You know, there's going to be better apps for it. There's going to be just a lot more information, generally speaking. And I think the future, or what I want the future to look like, is to kind of have it be like an integrative practice, right? So like if you sign up for, let's say, you know, I mean, you know, right, if you had a client work with you 3 or 4 days a week in person and they're seeing you every week, right, they're probably spending $1,500 or $1,600 a month on coaching, right? Like if they're seeing you 4 times a week in person, it's like, okay, it was $100 a session. But if you paid $800 a month, but you had access to a physio and you had a nutritionist write your program or write your diet, and then you had a coach that you worked with, and you dealt with all those people virtually, and you could just pick anyone from anywhere in the world that you liked, you know, I think that's what the future is going to look like. And even just at Kodiak, like bringing Jem on and having her be able to help people and me be able to co-manage cases with her has dramatically improved people's results, and dramatically we don't lose people to injury anymore, right? Like how many times have you had a client, you know, they'll bum their shoulder, you know, playing beer league rugby, and then they'll go to a physio and the physio will be like, you can't lift for 4 weeks. You're like, okay, well, I'll see you in 4 weeks. And you're like, but it's like, if you have a physio that works out of the gym and you're like, just go see them. And then they're going to be like, oh, well, just modify your program. You know? And so it's like having that kind of intermingling of like a coach talking to a nutritionist, talking to a physio, and you all creating a program together to help the person. I think that's what the future looks like. And it's going to look more like coaching teams as opposed to just individual coaches.
Yeah, I like that. And then I think I get excited for what can happen with AI and how much it can automate for us as well. Like, because if it can take care of some of the like basic messy stuff for you, like that means you can put more time into, if it's phone call coaching you're doing online or video conversations you can have with your client, or if it's in person, you got more minutes for them in person, because we can see a whole bunch of stuff in the back end that could be just looked after or sped up, if lack of a better word as well, right?
Well, you're buying your time back.
Yeah, I know. I thought I saw an exciting one that I'm sure will land our way if it's not already. Was a running app, and even a golfing app as well. That it breaks down your technique and then tells you what you're supposed to do. And then, like, I think, well, imagine if that was embedded with our thoughts already. Like if we said, hey, I need you to work on this in your movement, and then that's embedded into the AI video thing, that's app thing coaching you. If you're doing the movement and you're not doing it right, it picks it up immediately for you, because between it highlighting stuff it wants to work on and stuff we've told it to look at, and then you get that in a report as a part of your coaching. Like, how cool would that be?
Very sick.
Yeah, that'd be good. And then maybe the robots can spot us. That's the other thing too.
Yeah. But then we run into the issue of it's going to turn into Terminator. Skynet's going to wake up, and then we're fucking dead.
Yeah, I've seen. I often joked a long time ago that movie was a bit more like a documentary, and less like a fiction. Like we should be nervous about that, and I said that a long time ago, and now it's kind of like, oh shit.
It's fucking real, dude.
Yeah, bro. I know I'm fucking completely off topic, but there's a favorite quote I like that someone told me, and it was like, when it finally happens, and I'll butcher it, we're all going to be on the beach. The only problem is we're either drinking pina coladas or we're hiding.
Yeah.
And we don't know which one it is yet.
Well, it's I can't remember what they said, right? It's like, I don't know what weapons the next World War are going to be fought with, but I
Yeah.
know that the one after is going to be fought with sticks and stones. It's like it's like it's all over. It's all over.
Oh fuck yeah, I don't like that, bro. Mate, and for yourself, bro, how you fit in plenty of time for your own training. For those that have followed you, you had a bit of a mishap with the squat,
Oh yeah,
lack
good
of a
one.
better word. But if I was just to say for a minute, mate, it's been inspirational to watch you.
I
And
appreciate
that's
that.
one of the things I love is being able to follow that part of the journey for you as well. That horrendous little moment for you. But just the thing that I love the most is not just how quick you've gotten there, but just your attitude around it that you
Mhm.
put out online. Like at no point you've just always been positive about the whole thing.
Well, it's there's something my mom said to me right after it happened,
Yep.
and she said, because she worked as a nurse for a long time, like for 45 years, she was like she worked in oncology, she worked in people on dialysis, like all kinds of difficult, hard shit.
Yep.
And she said, the people that have the hardest time are the people that think that if they bitch or if they complain or if they're negative enough that something's going to change, right? It's like,
Yep.
she's like, there's no amount of being negative or shitty that's going to change the fact that you have fucking cancer, right?
Yep.
And so she was like, you have to spend this next 4 months rehabbing from this either way, right? She's like, there's no way that you can close your eyes, snap your fingers, and wake up and it's going to be done. You have to do this either way. And
Yep.
she's like, you can either add to your own suffering by just being a fucking negative asshole and miserable,
Mm.
or you can try to take the positives in it, try to enjoy the fact that you're relearning skills and abilities and things that you
Mm.
lost.
Yep.
And she's like, because that time's going to pass either way. And she's like, it's either going to be not that big of a deal or it's going to be fucking miserable and you get to choose.
Yep. Yep. And you did not choose misery, brother, which is cool to
Well,
see.
it was, and the thing is, right, is like, I think it's, for the most part, I'd say probably like 90 or 95% of the time,
Yep.
it was pretty good. Like,
Yep.
and then there'd be like, dude, the first time I realized that I couldn't dress myself, dude, it's like, it's so, and like, you can't wipe your own ass and you're like, this is so fucking embarrassing. And this is how how I went nuts too. Cause when we first got to the hospital,
Yep.
I couldn't, you know what a bedpan is, right? Like,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
a
Yeah. Yeah.
bedpan. I couldn't do it. I was like,
Oh.
I can't shit on myself in this bed. Like I can't, and I'm not going to shit in the bed that I sleep in. That's fucking disgusting.
Yep. Yep.
And so I just didn't shit for 6 days.
Oh Jesus, bro.
I was
That's
like,
hanging on.
dude, I didn't eat. I was like, you know
Yep.
what? Nothing in, nothing out. I'm just not going to eat.
Yep. Yep. Makes sense.
And I'm not doing anything. And I'm on a bunch of
Yep.
fucking drugs, so I don't feel
Yep.
like eating anyways. I'm just not
Yep.
going to do it.
Yep.
And then, yeah, I remember like the first day I got to inpatient rehab, they're like,
Yep.
you haven't, because they keep track of how long it's been since you took a shit.
Of course I do. Yep.
Yeah. And so they're like, I get up to inpatient rehab, and they're like, you haven't pooped since Sunday and it's Saturday. And I was like, yeah.
Yeah, I'm making
And
some choices.
they gave me laxatives. Like,
Yep.
you're pooping today. Whether you want.
Just choose the location.
Yeah. And I was like, oh no. And it was just like, there was very shitty parts, right? Like when you realize that, like the first time I saw my legs after surgery,
Mm.
I was like, oh, this is real. Because it was, I mean, my scars are, I don't know, probably 24 centimeters long. Like they're quite hefty. And then the first time I like saw my legs, because they have them in these in these braces, and then they're covered in like stocking, so you can't really see anything.
Yeah.
And the first time I saw it, it was like my whole leg from my hip to halfway down my calf was just like black and blue, and then because all the muscles had torn, and then there's this 24 centimeter long scar that I've never had before, and then also you don't have any, because there's so much swelling, your leg doesn't look like a leg.
Wow.
It just looks like a hot dog that has a scar on the front.
Jesus.
And I was like, oh, I really fucked myself up. And so like at first that was difficult, right? Because it doesn't feel like your body.
Yep.
And then like the first time I tried to walk, for probably the first 5 days, I couldn't use my left leg.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, like I really fucked myself up. Like I would walk with my right leg, and then because I had torn all the hip flexors in my left hip, they just hadn't turned back on yet. So I would have to walk with my right leg, and then the physio would take her foot and push my foot forward, and then I would walk again with my right leg. For 5 days. Wow. And so with stuff like that, I was like, oh wow, I'm like seriously disabled. And then the great thing about inpatient rehab is their goal when you get sent there is they have to get you to a level of independence that by the time you go home, you can just be at home. Like it's not a big deal.
Yeah. Yep.
And I remember I showed up the first day, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't put my own socks on. I couldn't dress myself. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't roll over, like nothing. And then I think we were there for 9 days or 10 days. And by the time I left, like I could, every single one of the tests they could do, I could either do it by myself or with like minimum assistance. And I was like, okay, I can fucking do this. And then by the time I got home, like the only thing I needed help, and this is where it was like kind of, you get like, you kind of get down on yourself, is like I still couldn't go to the bathroom by myself because I couldn't like get my legs up because my legs didn't work. And I was like, this is fucking bullshit. Mm-hmm. But I was only like seriously fucked up for, I'd say probably like 6 weeks. There's probably like 6 or 7 weeks where you're like, oh, things do not work. And then honestly, since then, like I'm 14 weeks now. That was 14 weeks ago. And I have like 90 degrees knee bend and squatted 60 kilos. And like, and so like my legs are still like noticeably smaller. Like this is where it gets nuts. So my legs when I got hurt were 30 and a half inches.
Wow.
And then when I got home from the hospital, they were 26.
Oh.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, I literally, I always made fun of my brother and my dad because they have these like very long, thin legs and they don't have a butt.
Yep. Uh-oh.
You know what I mean? They just look like spider legs.
Yep.
And I was like, holy fuck, I look exactly like them.
It's my turn.
But it's been good, man. It's been really, really good. And the thing too is like, when you go through any sufficiently traumatic experience, and I was like, and this is something that like I had to work through with my therapist because he was like, this is trauma, right? Like this is a traumatic experience. Like you lost the ability to use your legs, like that is considered trauma. I was like, no, it's fine. It's a big deal. It's not a big deal. It's fine. He's like, no, it's okay that this is traumatic. But when you go through a sufficiently difficult experience like that, like my wife and I are like, you know what I mean? Because she was my caregiver.
Yeah.
And it's been really, really cool. And I'm sure it's not the same too when you have children. It's like, you and the old lady, it's like, it's like we're bonded together.
Yeah, 100%. Man,
and it's
that's cool. A shout out to your amazing wife, bro. What a absolute legend of a human you have there, hey?
Dude, the best. And it was the only thing that I refused to let her do the entire time I was hurt. I was like, you're not wiping my fucking ass. You're not I was like, we are paying $200,000 to be in this hospital. I am getting a nurse to wipe my butt. We are paying for it. They are doing it.
They're doing that one. They're going to take that one for the team.
Yeah.
Are you
Dude,
enjoying the challenge of training? Because obviously it's a bit different now.
it's it's so weird too, right? Because I've torn, I've broken my back, I've torn muscle bellies, I've torn my back, I've torn my quads, all that kind of stuff, and I've never had an injury that it didn't feel like my body.
Yep.
So, like, I'm sure you've hurt yourself before, and you come back, and it's just sore, right? Like, you can still do the stuff. It's just painful.
Mm.
But this one's different because it's not even like it hurts. You just can't do it. And so it's like, it's a totally different thing because essentially, like, it's the exact same way where you had that client, Hazel, who you had to teach how to squat. I have to do that to myself.
Wow.
Because I'm like, oh, I literally don't know how to squat right now.
Yeah.
My body is just like, not doing it, not happening, not interested. And it's super trippy. And like, obviously deadlifting has come back way faster than squatting has. Yep. Like, deadlifting actually feels really, really good. But squatting is just so uncomfortable, so weird. And the thing too is it's not difficult. That's the thing. Is it's not like my muscles are being challenged. It's that I'm so uncoordinated that I can't do more than 8.
Gotcha. Yep.
It's a wild one, and it's fun though because it you have to figure out how to do it, right? It's like, okay, well, I can't just not squat ever again. I have to figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
So it's been fun. I've had a lot of fun.
You've been leaning on a lot of smart people around you, no doubt, to help sort of puzzle your way through those challenges.
It's I'm so grateful that I have my wife too, because she's done post-surgical rehab, and she did post-surgical rehab in school.
Oh, wow.
So she knows everything. She's like, okay. And then, like, she even had the guidelines from school of like, we should be at this much range of motion by this date. We should be at this much range of motion by this date. These are the things that we're allowed to do. These are the things we're not allowed to do.
Yep.
And so, it's been good.
And how is Stu as a client for himself, for lack of a better word, because in those moments you are a client for yourself. Are you staying within the rules and just doing what you can with what you're supposed to do, or are we exceeding expectations and pushing boundaries?
So, my orthopedic surgeon would probably shit his pants if he knew what I've been doing. Because it was like the nature of the injury that I had. I don't know if Kevin had talked to you about it, but it was like, it wasn't just that I tore my patellar tendons. It was that on my right leg, you have your medial and your lateral retinaculum, which are just like things that keep your patella in position. So both of those tore, and then my patellar tendon tore off of the patella, but then it also pulled completely off of the tibial tuberosity. So it pulled my tibial tuberosity off the bone. And so there was just like, the kneecap wasn't attached to anything. The patellar tendon on either side wasn't attached to anything. And then there was no medial or lateral retinaculum. And so then they just drilled my patellar tendon back into the bone with screws. And then the other side, because the right one was the one that tore first, when I loaded 700 or whatever it was, 332.5 kilos onto one leg, that one ruptured, but it tore right in the middle. So because it tore in the middle, as opposed to off of the bone, they had to overlap the tendon and then stitch it back together. And so this patellar tendon is like 2 or 3 centimeters shorter, and that patella sits like 2 or 3 centimeters lower.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's like, it's not good. And so the guy was like, when we first, like, he talked to me the day before surgery, and then he talked to me like a week post-op right before I left. And he was like, initially he told me that I was going to be in braces, locked out, immobilized, no knee bend for 16 weeks.
Oof.
Because he was like, based on the nature of the surgery, he's like, if anything happens to your right knee, he's
Yep.
like, there's no revision surgery that we can do to fix it. He's like, you're just not, that leg's just never going to work again.
Oof.
And I was like, okay, all right. And so I probably bought enough Chinese peptides to keep the Chinese economy afloat by myself.
Modern medicine, baby.
And so that played a huge part of it.
Yep.
But it's been fucking weird, man. And the thing too is like, I haven't been doing as much like body work or work on my legs probably in terms of like soft tissue and manual therapy as I should have, because it just feels so bad. It's like so bad, because the right leg's not bad, but because the left one, because I essentially did like a 332.5 kilo sissy squat with my left leg.
Yep.
All of the quads are torn, and it's just scar tissue. There's not even like, it doesn't even feel like a muscle. It just feels like beef jerky. And I'm like, I don't fucking touch my leg. I'll just be disabled. Don't fucking touch it. Like,
we'll just leave that alone.
Yeah.
Right. And like, you know, for training for yourself, do you have plans or visions of, you know, what you do with your body, whether it's something competitively or strength wise, you know, on the other side of this, or is it just more we'll just smash out this rehab and see where we land and what you can do next? Like what's your thoughts for yourself on what you'll be able to do?
So they initially told me, they're like, you're probably not going to regain full function of your legs. That's what they initially told me. They're like, you're going to have to be okay with the possibility that like your legs might never bend properly again.
Yep.
And so that was like I kind of had to come to terms with that, right? Because you had to accept that's a possibility. And I was like, well, that kind of sucks. Like, I'm the disabled guy now. And then when we went for our first post-op, we get the x-rays, and Jen's looking at the x-rays, and she's like, your left kneecap isn't as low as it should be. So it's in a better position. And she's like, I've had patients who have had no surgery and their kneecaps are that different in terms of height. She's like, this is totally work withable. She's like, that's in a totally fine position.
Wow.
And I was like, oh. And she's like, I don't know how that happened, but it is. And so for me, that kind of like reignited some hope. I was like, okay, like I can fucking do something with this. And so I've just been pushing as hard as I can with training and just like putting 100% effort into the sessions just to be able to like get some semblance of normalcy back. I'll probably still do push pull. Do I have any interest in ever squatting heavy again?
No.
I'm like, you know what? If I squatted 332.5 kilos, like 80% of the way up, I'm counting that. And I'm like, I'm okay with that being the most I've ever squatted. I'm okay. That'll do. And so, you know, I'll probably still do push pull. Like, it was frustrating too, because at that meet, like I was probably looking to bench like 210, and I probably could have pulled like 340, 342. And I was like, fuck. And so I definitely like, it sucks because I have to pull conventional now, because obviously my knees don't work pretty well.
Peasant lifting.
Oh, dude, it feels terrible. And but I'm like, you know what? And I'm sure, and you know this just as well as I. When you like don't do one of the three, it's way easier to get stronger.
Yeah.
way better.
Way less cooked.
Yeah. And it's so I'm just smashing out this rehab, and then once I've kind of told myself, I was like, once you can squat, you know, like 145 kilos for a set of 10 to a normal box, you know what I mean? Like a 20-inch box. You can probably it'll probably look like I'll do like a bodybuilding lower body day, you know, with just like split squats and leg press and shit like that. And then I'll do a deadlift day. I'll do a bench day. And then that's what it'll be. But
an arm day.
Arm day. Yeah. And But yeah, it honestly just looks a lot like a regular program right now.
Mm,
I just do more hip flexor work, and I do
yep.
all of my squats are high as giraffe pussy.
Yep. How long till you're in a gym and you're squatting high and someone goes, "Hey, bro, need to go a bit deeper on those."
Yeah.
Some complete stranger. Yeah. Well, let me tell you a story.
Well, and this is the thing is like once I get to like 145 kilos, if I can
Yep.
do like 145 for a set of 10 to like a regular normal height box,
Yep.
if I don't ever put a bar on my back again after that point, I
Yep.
don't know that I'll care. But
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know that I will probably have pretty good functionality and pretty good ability to like live my life if I have
Mm.
that amount of like leg strength.
Yeah. 100%.
Like if I can do that, like I can get off the toilet fine. I can get off the couch fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah.
I can kneel down and do something fine. Like
Yep.
so that's kind of how
And
my thought goes.
and complement a nice big deadlift at some point in time, even if it is in a peasant stance.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah. I love it. Now, brother, mate, I'm going to ask you one question, and that is, what's the vision, the future for you, like for 2025? What's on your calendar, professionally, and for your own fun times, bro? What do you got planned for yourself?
Dude, for us it's just been 2024 obviously was a bit of a fucking shit show.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so for us, it's just going to be just like total fucking normalcy, right? It's like just have a normal routine and schedule. You know, I have a
Yep.
couple of teaching engagements in March of 25, and then we're just going to keep pushing on growing Jim's business. We're moving, not anywhere outside of town, but we're just moving, you know, kind of beginning in December. So settling into our house. Um,
Nice.
just like normal, right? Like 24
Mm,
was a shit show, just normal, you know, like get things stable, keep pushing Jem's business, keep pushing
yep.
Kodiak. You know, we have
Yep.
some new stuff coming out kind of end of
Sick.
this year, and then just try to end this year on a good note. Are you
Love it.
coming over for Worlds?
Yeah, baby. Are you there? Are you coming up
Yeah,
to Chicago?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I'm deadlifting. I
Dude.
can't. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll message you. Do you know when you'll be in Chicago yet, or still deciding?
Well, dude, so I'm gonna come up for Kevy, obviously.
Yep.
And then I have two other guys who are M2 or M3.
Yep.
I don't Kevy
Sick.
wrapped one of them last year, but
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yep.
yeah. But so they're there too, and
Sick.
but I'll be there for probably 4 or 5 days.
Okay. Sick. Sick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because from our gym, we've got. I think our footprint is 20 all up. Not everyone's lifting. Yeah, about 20 of us coming. And then we've got, what we call gym friends, so guys from other gyms that are friends with us coming as well. So that throws another 5 or 6 like peripherals in the mix.
So
Mate,
sick.
it cannot wait for it. And I get to have a deadlift at the start on the Thursday, so I'm lucky enough to choose to be a masters, and that's before everyone else kicks off. And then yeah, the chaos is going to unfold. Like last year's Worlds was off the hook, and then you know what it's like. The team experience is what I always talk about. Is the thing you always remember afterwards, like traveling with that group of 20, getting to hang out with people like yourself. And
Yeah.
then all the weird random people you get to meet along the way.
Yeah.
Um, I cannot wait for it. And we'll be in Chicago, and then we're going to Disneyland for like 18 days, pretty much. We're
Are
going
you
down
going
to
to Disney
Orlando.
World or Disney? Which one?
Orlando. Which one's Orlando?
That's Disney
Whichever.
World.
We're going to that. We got 6 days of Disneyland booked,
Dude, you're like 2 hours away from us.
and we're also visiting you.
Oh,
Oh
dude,
yeah.
this is gonna be fucking awesome. But yeah, it's just 25 is normalcy. Just get back to normalcy. If I don't fucking aside from traveling for work, if I don't travel at
Yep.
all the entire year, I'll be happy.
Be a happy chappy. Brother,
Yeah.
mate, appreciate you coming on the podcast. We should shout you out for those. Everyone wants to know where you are. If they don't already know, they're real silly, but now they're going to follow you. How do they find you? Where are you, brother?
Only thing I have is Instagram, so it's Stu_Kodiak barbell.
That's all you need.
That's
100%.
all you need.
Brother, mate, appreciate you coming on. Thanks very much for your time. We'll talk lots off on the offline as well. Anyone who needs what Stu does, mate, he's an extraordinary coach. You need to go and follow him and see what he does. Thanks, brother.
All right. See you, buddy.